the ANC media briefing is currently underway in Mpumalanga. Now, this is ahead of the party's January 8th statement. This statement serves as a tradition to commemorate the party's anniversary and articulates its priorities and strategies for the upcoming year. To get more insights into this, we now go live to Mbombela for that briefing.
The President has gone there to be able to inspect the progress around these issues. Similarly, the Department of Water Affairs went to Maluti Apafong, who also suffered certain of those issues. In Limpopo, the ANC, together with traditional authorities, have been engaging with a range of communities at the beginning of the year, and then again at the end of the year to say that what are the issues in terms of water in Limpopo, and then to come back and say that this is what we're doing about it, this is the progress, and this is how far we've come with these issues. As an NEC, we're quite happy with the progress on the issues of water, but of course South Africa is a water scarce country. And therefore, the report that the ministry has commissioned and was released early towards the end of the last year on the blue drop and green drop report, which indicate the more long-term issues that we face, and provide us with a sense of not just addressing the immediate issues, but also more in the medium term what needs to be done to be able to ensure that we don't suffer these problems of breakdown of bulk infrastructure, and so forth. On transport, for example, which is another critical area of service delivery, a number of ANC-led municipalities have started during the period of last year and continuing this year programs to look at how do we fix potholes after the rainy season, but making sure that there's regular fixing of that. A number of them have begun to acquire their own yellow fleets to then be able to respond to these issues of road maintenance, which is an ongoing issue. In addition to that, the Department of Transport has also, working with the different provinces, transferred some of the maintenance responsibilities around regional and provincial roads to SANRAL, where provinces have indicated that they don't have the capacities to maintain that. And I think that if one look at maintenance in a lot of the provincial and regional roads, there are beginning to be progress in that, and SANRAL will continue to be able to do that. In addition to that, the Department of Transport has also been addressing the questions around the passenger rail lines where there have been problems in Cape Town, in the major cities, in Gauteng, and up to 26 of those key passenger nodes in our urban areas have been reopened and are in the process of being reopened to ensure that we also address the costs of transport on commuters. And the Minister of Transport always used the example that, you know, between what it costs a bus ticket and what a rail ticket costs, and it's a major saving for commuters. But of course, part of what we need to do is to not just look at existing infrastructure, but also looking at how do we modernize our rail system, and that's part of what hopefully the President will address in the upcoming SONA. The third task is around addressing the energy crisis and load shedding, and one of the first things that the President did last year was to appoint a dedicated electricity minister. And the reason for that is that load shedding presents a crisis for households, for government services, for the economy, and you do need someone at the apex of government that can focus on this issue to be able to get that. And we're quite happy about the performance of this responsibility over the last year. Basically making sure that we focus on the energy action plan and that concrete progress is being made in the implementation of that energy action plan. And just to remind ourselves, the energy action plan look at stabilizing Eskom, as well as the improving the performance of its power plant, accelerating the procurement of new capacity from renewables, gas and battery storage, unleashing business and household investment in rooftop solar capacity, as well as transforming the electricity sectors. So on each of those, there are progress that's been made. For example, If one recall at the beginning of last year, yes, we are now in stage 2 or 3 across the country since the beginning of the year, but we're certainly in a much better position than the rolling stage 4 and 6, and I don't know what level we reach at the beginning of the year. There's light at the end of the tunnel because of these measures that have been taken to be able to implement the energy action plan. During the year, for example, we've stabilized the management of Eskom. Finally, we've appointed a CEO at the beginning of December. The board has been stabilized. And, for example, the target's been set for energy availability factor improvements at Kendal, Kriel, Majuba, Matla, the Kusile coming on board, the plant maintenance. And I think that one of the good things about this intervention has been the fact that you had a minister that regularly communicated about these issues, but not just on a frequent basis every week, but also when there are problems to then go to the media and say that this is the problem that we're facing and this is what we're doing as government about it. Of course, we hope to have had, as our Secretary General said, had load shedding ended by December last year. But we are convinced that we are on the right track to sustainably address this problem of load shedding as well as energy security for the country. And, you know, issues such as the debt problems of municipalities have been addressed, issues around Eskom's debt through National Treasury. Those are all part of the initiatives to sustainably address the problem of load shedding, but also making sure that we energy secure as a country. The third task was around economic recovery as well as job creation. And amongst the what we said in our January 8th statement is the emphasis on industrial policy. So this year, the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy has published the petroleum bill so that South Africa can again add value and be able to ensure that it sustainably address its issues around energy as well as petrol, beneficiation around minerals, issues around the automotive sector as well as electric vehicles, and how do we create an environment for that in the country, the green economy, as well as the creative sector. So there are initiatives that have started during the year on all of these areas, and we're convinced that it forms an important platform. In addition to that, the ANC remains committed, unlike others, to the principle of black economic empowerment. Our constitution said to us that we need to ensure that we address the historical injustice. Black economic empowerment and affirmative action are key policy instruments to be able to do that. The public procurement bill this year have passed through the National Assembly and the NCOP. An important amendments that's been made in consultation and working together with black business has been the set-asides for black business, for women, 40% for women and youth, so that those things are not just, policy wishes, but that they're actually within the law. And we can then hold government accountable to say that your procurement bills say that you need to do X. To what extent have we been able to implement that? So we're quite happy with progress in that regard. Other areas in terms of the economy is the progress after gone through NEDLAC with the Companies Act Amendment Bill. That has also gone to Parliament. So working together with both Labour as well as with business, those have also been through Parliament. And then, of course, the question about agriculture and land reform, the expropriation bill has also passed. And we've also, as a Department of Agriculture, signed important agreements with new markets around some of our key agricultural products, Vietnam, China, etc., because it's important that as a country we diversify our trade relationships with the world so that we don't just rely on historical areas, the US and Europe, but that we also diversify into the Middle East as well as China. and other Asian markets, which are huge growing markets in the world. And South Africa needs to use its BRICS partnership to do that. This year on the economy, we've also seen the recovery, and for the first time, the jobs have surpassed what we saw, the number of jobs created in the economy before 2019 and the 2020 COVID pandemic. So yes, there is recovery, but more needs to be done to be able to ensure that we tackle the problem of, over 32% official unemployment, with a particular focus on youth unemployment. So on the economy, green shoots, but we think that more needs to be done in the coming year. And we need to have a much more decisive intervention in terms of making sure that industrial policy work, but also that macroeconomic policies serve our national development needs. Then there's the area of the task around fighting crime and corruption, as well as GBV. We've this year seen the report from government through the presidency on the implementation of the Zondo Commission actions, the reform of the prosecuting authorities and giving it more powers, the arrests that's been made and the prosecutions on the way, strengthening the legislation and regulations in the public sector, and all of those things. But we are very clear that this is a fight that we need to be prepared against corruption for the long haul. If you look at countries like Singapore, China, the US, Europe, across the world, the fight against corruption is something that you need to make a decisive break with, as we did with the Commission Against State Capture, and then you need to be resolute about, on an ongoing basis, addressing the issues. Similarly, within the ANC, we've also seen the referral of the individuals mentioned in the Zondo Commission report to the Integrity Commission. Those that have not gone to the Integrity Commission, they have been referred to the National Disciplinary Committee, and the Secretary General is following up on this matter and will report to the National Executive Committee on those matters. But in addition to that, there's also a number of provinces that have taken actions where ANC deployees has circumvent our position against corruption, and the step-aside rule has applied. I mean, for example, 2 months ago in the Free State, an MEC were forced to step aside, and the person did so voluntarily because it was clear that they have contravened and that they therefore have to follow the regulations of the ANC. On crime, this is an issue that concern all South Africans, from households to women in their homes, girls and young women at universities, to communities, businesses. Crime affects all of us from, across socio-economic sectors. And amongst the initiatives that the police taken last year is the recruitment of the new cohort of police persons. I think it's about 2,300 that are ready, that passed out towards the end of last year. But with the census release that gave us a clear sense about what our population is now, we will have to look at the link between the number of police personnel that we have and our population, and bring it more in line with international norms. Some of the other initiatives is Operation Chanela, which the South African Police Services have embarked on towards the second half of the year, where they work together with community policing forums, with Metro Police, with private security, to be able to look at how do you have much more visible policing in hotspot areas, in addition to working together with the SANDF around the question about addressing illegal mining. But as I said, we still have a long way to go, and we do think that more needs to be done to be able to address this. But at the end of the day, crime as international examples show, is a socio-economic issue as well. There's a policing factor, but it's also a question of inequality, it's also a question of unemployment, and we need to ensure that we address crime and the socio-economic root causes of crime so that we're able to, as a nation, get out of this. The last two, and I'm going to finish now, I can see Comrade Mashlengi is giving me the eye. The last two tasks that we reviewed from our previous January 8th statement was around the ANC renewal, and to look at some of the initiatives that we've taken. One of them is, of course, the beefing up the monitoring and evaluation capacity of the ANC, to be able to monitor its organizational structure, our membership, our branches, our leadership accountability framework, the initiatives around strengthening our rules for selecting public representatives. And for the first time, we now have interviews for all public representatives. There are minimum requirements, there are minimum ethical requirements that we are setting for our public representatives, so that by the time that we release to the public, say in February, the crop of new ANC candidates, we have a sense that we have cadres and public representative candidates that can represent the transformation and development agenda of the country. The final task was around the question about building a better African world, and we think that on this area we have done very well. At the beginning of 2023, we were a bit on the back foot. There were concerns about whether South Africa will be able to host the BRICS summit. You of the media were raising the question, around the question about will we be able to host the BRICS summit. The Putin issue and a whole range of issues, but as a country we rose to the occasion, standing firm on our principles that we are a sovereign country and therefore have the right to make our own foreign policy. It's in the Constitution of the Republic, and the ANC remains committed to that principle. So we had a very successful BRICS summit. BRICS have enlarged. It looked at how the BRICS Development Bank can ensure that it encourages trade and industrialization of BRICS countries, including the new ones that have joined. We've hosted the political party BRICS dialogue with a large number of parties from across the world that attended at a senior level. But in addition to that, the ANC also, as well as the South African government, has also taken important initiatives around, the war in Ukraine, the initiative by African presidents to go to Ukraine and meet with both parties and say that, a continuation of this war is not in the interests of both the people of Ukraine and Russia and Europe, as well as in the interests of the broader world. The war that's happening in Palestine at the moment, and the initiatives that we've taken as a country around those things, breaking new grounds. For example, our minister and NEC member, Comrade Ronald Lamola, will be leading a delegation from South Africa to the International Criminal Court of Justice. And the last time something like that happened was in the 60s. When Ethiopia and Liberia, who at the time were amongst the few countries that were not colonized, took apartheid South Africa to the International Criminal Court of Justice on our behalf, and said that this is a crime against humanity, and the global humanity and justice system must speak about this issue. And in the same way, it's a form of justice that we as a country, on behalf of another very small country, are taking up this matter in the international community. So we think that on international relations, we have been involved in Mozambique last year. The matter in northern Mozambique is coming towards a lasting solution. We've hosted representatives from one side in the conflict of Sudan. The president has just made the announcement. We've been involved in the Ethiopian peace process. the implementation of the Southern Sudan Agreement, engaging with ECOWAS around what's happening in West Africa. So on an international score, South Africa is doing very well. And I think that we've become a voice of the global South, but also of progressive humanity within that. So I think that the conclusion of the National Executive Committee is that in terms of the decisions that we've taken at the beginning of 2023, that there has been progress on a number of these areas. We have implemented what we said we will do. That of course a number of these issues are ongoing matters. Some of them require interventions that are sustained over time, the problem of unemployment, the issues of poverty and inequality. But we are convinced that a key part of the renewal of the ANC is resolute actions around the transformation project, as well as making sure that we continue to build a better life for all the people. And that remains our major mission. And that the ANC will continue to pursue in the coming year. And as we said, the President on Saturday will then speak about what are the tasks for 2024 emerging from the assessment that we've made. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Comrade Phoebe. Thank you very much, Comrade Joe.
There you have it there. We come out of that media briefing with the ruling party. This is all happening now in Mbombela, where the ANC now briefs the media on a range of issues that were touched on. I think on the first day, this was the sitting of the NEC, which happened yesterday. And of course, we continue to monitor those developments coming out of Mbombela. It would seem that now the foundations have been laid ahead of that January 8th statement that will be happening.